Hi, this is Jason Fielder with the Daily Forex Report for November 23rd. Let's take a look at the U.S. Japanese yen pair. This particular pair moved back higher during Friday's session, closed at the high. I am expecting this pair to move as high as 96.76 and potentially as low as 92.62. Do look for some resistance to come into this market around the 96.00 level, and it should find some support around 95.00. I'm going to be talking about inside bars a little bit today. This is one of the pairs. There's actually a lot of pairs that have formed inside bars on Friday. You'll have your pick of basically looking for breakouts from those inside bars, which will be kind of nice, but this is definitely one of them. This pair is pretty much just moving sideways currently. The bias, no real indication as to where the bias is going at this time. Now looking at the Euro USD pair, this pair I'm expecting to move as high as 127.31 and as low as 122.99. Now definitely look for some resistance to come in around 126.40, and look for some support around 124.50 for this particular pair. This pair is moving sideways. The bias is to the downside, but we still have this previous support that hasn't been broken. So until we get a real good, basically a close below that previous support, I don't anticipate this pair doing anything but what it's been doing the past couple of weeks, just moving sideways. Now let's switch over to the pound US dollar pair. This pair gapped, fairly significant gap on the open. I am expecting it to move as high as 151.78 and as low as 145.28. Look for some resistance around 150.60 and look for it to find some support around 147.22. This pair is also just moving sideways for the most part. I'm looking for it to continue moving sideways until we get a break either of this session's high or potentially this session's low. Looking for it to close above or below that to really get a bias one way or another. Now switching over to the US Swiss pair, this particular pair of course has been moving higher, trending higher over the past several sessions. I am expecting it to move as high as 123.83 and as low as 121.03. Now look for some resistance around 122.96 and look for some support around 121.50 for this particular pair. This pair is moving higher, biased is to the upside. We would have to get a break of a trend line, which I haven't drawn very straight, but a pretty good close below that for the bias to change from the upside to either sideways or moving lower. Now back to what I was referring to earlier, we actually have the US Japanese yen pair formed an inside bar. We'll take a look at it real quick. It's a rather large amount of room to move down to get a break below the low. If you do get a break to the upside though, look for it to basically run up to the previous open and close of these two sessions. Now looking at another pair, we have the Australian dollar US pair. This particular pair also formed an inside bar on Friday. Another pair you can take a look at for inside bar would be the Euro Japanese yen pair. This particular pair, there we go, it formed an inside bar as well. The Euro Australian dollar, this was the one that had the overextended bar on Thursday. Friday we were looking for it to retrace to the high. It did not do that. Unfortunately, that gave us a loss of around 168 pips for that particular trade. But nonetheless, we do have an inside bar. So if we get a break, above this high or below this low, most likely it will be to the upside. We look to go short if it's to the downside, and look to go long if it's to the upside. If it is lower, look basically for it to run down to these sessions, the close and then the open of this session. Now looking at the pound Japanese yen pair, this pair also formed an inside bar for this particular pair, and also the New Zealand US dollar created an inside bar. And what you might want to do is go ahead and go to the, and I haven't taken the time to do this, but go to the weekly time frame, draw some trend lines on this particular pair. Obviously this is to the downside. These aren't very straight. Anyway, look for the break of that low. Look where your trend line's going. You should see that if you get a break of that inside bar down to the weekly trend line, you can go back to the day time frame, and at that point you would you should see the break and know where to exit essentially from that trade. So a lot of options. One good thing about using a mini account or even a micro account, what I would recommend, by the way, is that you can leverage these down. Like if you wanted to take all 6 of these inside barred trades, go ahead and put them in as pending orders, but you didn't want to risk more than say 1% of your account because you don't know which ones are going to go, and you're not sure that you want to risk more than that for these. You could actually divide that 1% up, or 2%, whatever you choose to trade, up into those 6 different pairs and go ahead and put them on. Now, granted, if whether they win or lose, it's not going to be that much of your account, but yet you have this somewhat of a basket now of inside bar trades that you have on, and some will hit, some won't, and you can come back the next day and see which ones did and which ones didn't. But that's one of the advantages of having a mini or micro account. If you choose to leverage down, essentially, for whatever reason, you have the ability to do that, and it's really nice. Now, looking forward, we do have the Eurozone current account for September being released at 4 a.m. on Monday. That's Eastern time. There's no real consensus at this time. Last month, it was at negative 8.4 billion. And the New Zealand dollar also has their Reserve Bank of New Zealand 2-year inflation expectation for the 4th quarter being released. There's no consensus at this time. It's being released at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, and last time it was released, the last quarter is at 3%. So you may want to, I don't believe either one of these necessarily will move the market, but if you're in front of your computer, it's definitely worth taking a note to see how it does affect the market. Well, that about does it for today. Until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.